Hey, Joe, thanks for joining me again here on Mea Culpa. It's been a while. I want to jump right into it because the time goes by too quick and we always have a lot to talk about. I want to talk about like the impact of Trump's indictments. I mean, there are multiple legal challenges right now that are facing Trump. They have the 3 outstanding. You have September 18th, the sentencing by Judge Juan Merchan in the Manhattan DA case. By the way, that's a case that nobody thought should be brought, that everybody wanted to mock. Meanwhile, it's the one that's holding him accountable. My question to you is, how do you foresee these legal issues influencing Trump's campaign strategy, the voter base of the GOP, and the overall prospect of a 2024 election victory?
Hey, Michael, let me just first say, because I haven't said this to you publicly before since you testified a few months ago. Thank you, brother, for everything you did. Thank you for your public courage. Look, 3.5 years ago, Trump tried to overthrow an American election. He shouldn't be a candidate for president. He should be in jail. He should be a pariah in this country. But Michael, sadly, I don't think these indictments, I don't think Trump's legal troubles will matter at all in this campaign. They should disqualify him. It's not just his voters, Michael, his base. Voters in general have moved beyond the criminal that Trump is, sadly. So Kamala Harris is going to have to figure out another way to just beat him.
But do you really believe, so I agree with you as it relates to the MAGA maniacs, the MAGA morons. No matter what he does, they don't care. Where with Donald, it doesn't make a difference. You can't win off of the 70% of the Republican Party, which he seems to have a stronghold over. That would be unless no independent voters come out to vote and a substantial number of Democratic voters refuse to vote. Other than that, he kind of gets wiped off the map, if you think about it, because independent voters, I believe, have to give a shit about the fact that he has now been charged 34 times with guilt, with a guilty verdict in 34 counts of criminal in a criminal court. I believe that they have to actually believe this to be relevant and that he, as you said, is not fit for the office of the presidency.
You and I, my brother, disagree on this one. I think those 34 counts, the fact that he was convicted on those 34 felony charges, I don't think that indictment and that conviction mean much to most Americans. I really don't, Michael. It's not just his base. I think most independents believe he got indicted because his name was Trump. The other indictments, Michael, are serious. Trying to overthrow an election, trying to overthrow Georgia's election, stealing classified documents. Those should disqualify him. But I just don't hear from independents, and I talk to independents every day. They're not thinking about Trump's legal troubles. If what they don't like about Trump is just what a fucking bad guy he is and all the chaos that comes with him.
And wouldn't it then just give them a reason to say, because most people just don't want to say, hey, I just don't like somebody, even though he's unlikable. They can just say, listen, he was found guilty. 34 counts of criminal behavior. On top of that, he's a sexual assaulter. He owes over $600 million in civil penalties. It's just not the look that you want from a president of the United States. They could certainly use that as a rationale.
Yes. And by the way, I think the Harris campaign needs to go after this. This needs to be part of their campaign. And she talks about this in her stump speech right now. I think other groups are out there and will be out there, Michael, spending money, reminding the American voter that Trump's a fucking criminal. So look, that case needs to be made and it will impact voters. I just think that alone is not going to win it for her. Remember, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, before she became the nominee, when Biden was the nominee, Trump was beating Biden. Electorally, right now, Trump's still up on her electorally right now. So this is going to be a close race electorally.
But if you take a look, I saw a report the other day. Well, let me ask you this question first. So we'll talk about, since we're going to talk about Kamala Harris's campaign strategy, right? So as she's positioning herself for the presidency, what do you think the specific policy areas and the voter demographics she should prioritize? I mean, there's only 96 days left. So what are the areas that she should prioritize to strengthen her base, as well as to appeal to what you I were just talking about, the independent and the swing voters?
Hey, Michael, if I'm Kamala Harris, I don't worry about getting my base out. I think that's going to happen. There has been so much fucking enthusiasm this last week and a half, and that is going to continue. The left is jazzed. Dems are jazzed. What Kamala Harris has to do to beat Trump is go into Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin and appeal to working class white, black, and brown voters and appeal to them that she's not some crazy lefty. How does she do that? She talks about the issues they care about, the economy, all the economic stuff, all the manufacturing that the Biden and Harris administration has done, the great job that they've done with the economy. She's got to talk about the economic stuff. And by the way, Michael, she did this in Atlanta in her speech last night. Take this issue of immigration head on. Trump's going to try to beat her over the head with immigration. She shouldn't back down. She should punch back on the issue of immigration, because there are people out there, independents, who believe that Harris and Biden have been bad on immigration. So it's these issues I think she's got to talk about.
Right, but by the way, did you see Trump's comment that the only reason that she filled the stadium, was because she had superstar acts and performers on, that he doesn't need performers, he doesn't need, take a look at the whole RNC convention. It was one jerk off performer after another. I mean, give me a break. But
by the way, Michael, you know Trump better than anybody. I want to ask you this question. She's getting all the attention now. And next week, she's going to pick her VP. And then the week after that is the Democratic convention. I mean, Trump's not going to be in the news. How the hell is he going to handle that?
Okay, so here's my prediction. It's a great question. My prediction is he's going to do things and say things that are so vitriolic, that are so absolutely confounding to anybody, and to just anybody other than a MAGA moron, that he's going to try to steal as much thunder as he possibly can. But just going back to the whole thing, as you were stating with these swing states, I saw a series of polls that came out yesterday. Kamala Harris is up I think they said out of 6 swing states, she's up 4 of the 6 and tied for the other 2, with Michigan at the highest now. Harris plus 11. They were down. They were down before 3. Now they're plus 11. That's a 14-point swing. Do you give any credence to any of those polls?
Yeah, but I never give credence to one poll, Michael. What we all have to do is take all of the polls and average out the polls. And you are correct in that Trump was beating Biden consistently in the battleground states. Harris has shrunk that number to where now, based on all of the polls, it's neck and neck in the battleground states. So when you look at all the polls, she's right there in the hunt.
Right. And not only that, she has the most important word in any campaign: momentum.
Enthusiasm.
She has momentum and enthusiasm on her side. When you start to see over 200,000+ new volunteers, forgetting about the money that was raised from the small dollar donors, well in excess of $250 million, it tells you something about the enthusiasm behind this campaign, behind this individual, which, again, is all the direct result of Biden doing the heroic and the American thing to do, and that was to step aside.
Hey, Michael, Joe Biden willingly walked away from power. Donald Trump committed crimes, abused his office, and incited a violent attempt to overthrow an election, all to hang on to power. Man, you can't get a contrast more sharper than that.
I mean, I think with Biden's decision to step aside, right? Everybody, especially many on the on both sides, Republican and Democrat, thought that it was going to leave some sort of a gaping hole in the Democratic leadership and the party. And then up steps the vice president, up steps Kamala Harris. And I think even to maybe somewhat of her own surprise, it wasn't just meteoric. I mean, this thing took off like a supersonic rocket ship with only just a straight up path. I mean, there's no evening out. Even as we speak now, there is no. And I think a lot of that has to do with the stupidity, the bombastic, the idiotic, the moronic comments that keep emanating from those holes underneath the noses of both Trump and J.D. Vance, or as we like to call them on this show, Shady Vance. I mean, I just think that these idiotic comments that they're making, calling her a childless cat lady, and you can't love America if you don't have children, or the whole racism, Diet Mountain Dew sort of thing, or the rumors of Shady Vance fucking a couch. I mean, these are all stuff. And then the shit coming out of Trump's mouth, even it's almost as idiotic as what's coming out of, of Shady Vance's mouth. The only thing that Trump has going for him, I hate to say it, was the assassination attempt on his life, which has made him somewhat of a sympathetic character in some regard, but I don't know. I can't figure it out. How do you think that they're going to go after Kamala in order to try to negate this meteoric rise that she's experiencing right now?
Michael, I don't think Trump knows how to go after her. That's a big story. But yeah, to your other point, though, think about it. 3 weeks ago, I was depressed. Everything for a month and a half was going Trump's way. The court rulings. I mean, everything was going Trump's way. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like, we're not going to be able to stop this son of a bitch. And then, Michael, Donald Trump did something that made me smile big time 2 weeks ago when he picked J.D. Vance. That was a fucking mistake. That was an unforced error. Michael, I don't know what you think. If Trump had picked Nikki Haley or even Rubio or Glenn Youngkin, I would have been deflated because those would have been smart picks. But when he picked J.D. Vance, I fist pumped because I knew he was fucking up. I knew that was a mistake. And you know him better than anybody. He was arrogant. He thought he had it made. He thought he was running against Biden. Go.
No. Well, yes, he thought he was running against Biden. But here's the thing. There's somebody still that's within the inner circle of the campaign.
Yeah.
And I had heard of a conversation that person had with someone I'm very close to, who turned around and said that Trump was actually intending on having Nikki Haley as his vice president, and that it was Peter Thiel and Don Jr. that convinced him otherwise, and it was over the money. And this is not the first time that Don Jr. has stuck his nose into something that is going to end up negatively impacting his father. So when Donald says that Don Jr. has the worst fucking judgment of any human being that he's ever met, I write about that in my first book, Disloyal. He's not wrong, because like you, right now, I would not be optimistic and hopeful of a Harris victory. And I think it's going to be a substantial victory. I don't think it's going to be as close as everybody thinks. This is all the direct result, once again, of Donald Jr., who decided that he and Peter Thiel were going to convince the father, Donald, that the right person was J.D. Vance. He is so morally bankrupt as the human being. The comments that he makes about women are so sexist and misogynistic. They even make Trump look small. I mean, if you are going to have somebody, if you're going to be in Trump's camp, the one thing that you never want to do is take the spotlight away from him.
Yeah.
That's what he feeds off. That's his energy. That's his superpower. And Vance has done that. And I'm shocked that he has not already resigned as, nominee for the vice presidency. But Vance won't do that for several different reasons. One, his ego is too big. And two, it would be the end of his political career. End of it forever and ever if he ended up doing that. So I don't know what they're going to do. And you can't take back the stupid things that you say.
Yeah, Michael, again, you and we'd be having a much different conversation right now if Trump had just made the smart play. If he had picked Nikki Haley, that's a really tough ticket to beat, plain and simple. But he's incapable of making the smart play. I think he was cocky and arrogant. And I also think you're right. I don't think it was just Peter Thiel. I think other Silicon Valley guys threw money at him. I think Elon Musk weighed in and threw money at him and then took it back. But
believe it or not, I heard it was not Musk. I heard it was simply Don Jr. and Peter Thiel. And maybe Peter said that he's speaking on behalf of a multitude of individuals. But
it was a mistake. Regardless, it was a mistake.
Massive mistake. Yeah. And the funny thing is, for somebody who is so universally described as being an idiot, and I'm referring to Donald, he actually has pretty decent political instincts. He was going with Nikki Haley, but then for whatever the reason, it's almost like the same stupid There's no doubt, and I write about this in my second book, Revenge, that Don Jr. was involved in the having Donald throw me under the bus and walking away, from me during. None of this would have occurred if, in fact, Donald had kept to his own instinct, which was not to cut me off, but to rather do as he had said when we spoke the day after the raid on my home in April of 2018. And that was, don't you worry, I got you. I'm the president of the United States. I'm the most powerful man in the world. Nothing's going to happen. I've got this. That was his initial instinct. Probably the right one. But again, he ended up listening to who? He ends up listening to Don Jr. and others. And it's a big mistake. So, go ahead, you were going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Michael, and I don't know, he can overcome it. Trump can, but he's not going to get rid of Vance. He's got to live with it. But it's a really tough one to get over because it's the new shit's coming out every day about what J.D. Vance has been saying. The other thing about Vance, Michael, is he's an utter fraud. 3-4 years ago, he hated Trump, like Tucker Carlson, privately hated Trump, knew Trump was bad. J.D. Vance made a deal with the devil to, embrace MAGA and Trump to advance his career. J.D. Vance didn't even win by much in Ohio. His numbers in Ohio suck. He's a fraud.
Yeah, it's true. But, I want to ask you about, something that I see and something that really concerns me a lot is the rise of populism in American politics. In America, I mean, imagine this, right? It's a growing force. And by the way, in both parties, I really truly don't like it. How do you see, compared to when you were in Congress, the rise of populism? And what do you think of the implications for traditional conservative and progressive ideologies.
So
Because I
Yeah.
just think it's dangerous.
That's why I love coming on your show, because you and I do disagree on a bunch of things. I got no problem with populism. I am a populist. And I suppose it depends on one's definition of populism. To me, populism is just regular people are pissed off at their political system, pissed off at elites who haven't been listening to them. And so populism is just kind of a righteous anger that regular Americans have.
So what is Lumen? Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or you're burning carbs. And it gives you a tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, something I need badly, and even stress management. So let me tell you how Lumen works. All you have to do is you breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fat or carbs. And then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on the measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after your workouts and your meals so that you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So here's what Lumen does. Lumen provides crucial insights and helpful guidance for your lifestyle. It requires effort though, and it also requires a lifestyle change to achieve results. Let me be clear, Lumen is not just a weight loss tool. It's about understanding and improving your metabolic health. So let me also tell you why metabolic health matters. It matters because your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimum metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, and better sleep. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so that you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. So if you want to take the next step to improving your health, go right now to lumen.me/Cohen to get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/Cohen for 15% off your purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
It can be used for good or bad purposes, and there are good populists and bad populists. Trump is an evil populist. The problem is we are living in a populist moment in America, because the American people have been angry for a while at their political system, and they haven't felt for a while like their political system is taking care of them or listening to them. Trump and MAGA, Michael, demagogue this populist moment, and they use it to try to further divide us. But the Democratic Party hasn't recognized this populist moment. There's been too much of kind of like an elitism in the Democratic Party. They need to use this populist moment to give these angry people solutions to help bring people together. Democrats can't be elitists, Michael, or it's going to hurt them. Does that make sense?
It does, but I think you're looking at populism as a very narrow and defined sort of term, right? And if we're going to keep it on the narrow and the term, take the Republicans, take Donald with the evangelical ideology, this white Christian nationalistic movement, Project 2025, so to speak. And it's so bad that even Donald is now trying to figure out how to shut the whole thing down and to evacuate himself from that burning building. The problem is he's so knee deep into that shit that there is no way out. He's like up to his neck already in it. And the fact that he says, well, I denounce it, I have nothing to do with it, and so on. Yeah, sure, today, because that's the populist view that Project 2025 is a 900+ page manifesto. It's a Mein Kampf of the destruction of government and America's democracy as we know it. And so he, as hard as he's going to try to, again, distance himself, it just isn't working.
And people are never going to read all 900 pages. And all people really need to know about Project 2025, and it's every bit as bad and evil as you say, Michael. Project 2025 would turn the American president into a king. It would give him power to reshape our government all by himself, and it would give MAGA and conservatives power to use the government to push the shit that they want. It would get rid of checks and balances. It would get rid of democracy. It would turn Trump into an authoritarian.
You're right, but can I just say this?
Yeah.
The interesting thing is Donald has them all fooled. He's got them all fooled. The schmucks from the Heritage Foundation, the fucking jerk-offs that are in his campaign that are like the Steve Bannons of the world. Each and every one of these individuals, including the Marjorie Toilet Greens, the Ted Cruzes, right, the Josh Hawleys, all of those that you see all the time on television who have pledged their fealty already to the king. What they don't understand is that the king does not have equals. He does not have people around him that benefit. This is not Rome like the Caesars with the nobles. In Donald's world, there is only one. It reminds me of like the old movie, The Highlander, right? With Christopher Lambert. Remember? There can be only one. And that is Donald Trump. There can be only one king. The rest of you, you too are serfs. You may think you wield power. You may think that you have access to me. You did up until the time that Project 2025 became a reality. And your point about few people, myself included, I have not read all 900 pages. I skimmed through all 900, but I'll tell you which chapter I read with great detail is chapter 18. And that chapter in and of itself should be more than enough for you to turn around and to say, if Donald Trump becomes president of the United States, what he is going to do to the democratic norms that we have become accustomed to over the last 147 years is nothing like it will be come 2025. You will not recognize anything. And when you see like that Netflix dystopian show, The Handmaid's Tale, don't think for a quick second that that's not going to become a reality. And the funniest thing is once Donald becomes the king, do you think J.D. Vance is going to become his queen? Do you think that he's going to be even needed? When the checks and balances are thrown out, so will be the vice president. And it will be Donald with his kids and maybe 2 or 3 other people at best who will be at the helm running every single facet of this country. And that is an absolute danger to us all.
Michael, this is what always makes me sad. You know, I come from MAGA. I voted for Trump in 2016. I still talk to these people every single day. What you just said is so important. He doesn't give a fuck about these people.
Nope.
I still feel for these people. I feel sorry for them. I'll never go after Trump's supporters. I'll always go after Trump, but he doesn't give a fuck about them. And it pains me that they don't realize that.
Yeah, but you have to go after his supporters as well. They are enablers. Those people, when you start seeing Ted Cruz, when you start seeing Marjorie Toilet Green, when you start seeing Lauren Hobart, right? You know, you start seeing all of these MAGA maniacs go, they are his enablers. And only because of the enabling does he continue to do more vile, misogynistic, racist, sexist, Islamophobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic shit.
Let me make one correction. Let me correct myself. I agree with you. When I talk about as a rule, I don't go after Trump supporters. I don't go after his voters because I used to be one of them. Those are my people. But you're right, Michael. I'll go after all of his media cheerleaders. I'll go after all of my former congressional colleagues who have all sold their fucking souls to him. Mike Lee's and the Rand Pauls, all of them. Jim Jordan's, my former buddy, Jim Jordan. I go after guys like that all the time.
Yep.
They're as despicable as Trump. I just don't go after his voters.
Oh, okay. Then I'll just do it for both of us.
Michael, I'm not going to stop you from doing it.
As if you could, right? So, hey, so talk about, like, look, I call it the way that I see it. Like, I think a major mistake by the Democratic Party, and I hear this from a lot of people, especially those that are, of course, pro-Israel, which I happen to be pro-Israel. That doesn't mean, just by saying that you're pro-Israel doesn't mean that you're anti-Palestine. It doesn't mean that you're anti-Palestinian. It does not. I also do not believe that Palestine is Hamas, nor do I believe that Hamas is Palestine. And I don't want to see any innocent people killed. I want to see this war come to an end. I want the hostages returned tomorrow. But I thought it was incredibly stupid. And when I say stupid, I mean stupid to the 10th degree, that there were a slew of Democrats that boycotted Prime Minister Netanyahu's speech to Congress. And my question that I want to ask of you, how do you interpret the party's evolving stance on U.S.-Israel relations? And what does it indicate about the broader geopolitical alignments that are going to be necessary and are going to be real serious topics in this upcoming election?
Michael, this is a problem for the Democratic Party. Let's just be real. The Republican Party, for a lot of reasons, is uniformly and united pro-Israel. They're behind Israel. The Democratic Party is not, as a party. A support for Israel splits the Democratic coalition. It's always been this way. I'm very pro-Israel. When I was in Congress 10 years ago, Michael, Republicans were 100% behind Israel. Democrats were like 50-50. It splits the Democratic Party. And that's hurt Biden politically because Biden's generally been really good on Israel. This is something that Kamala Harris, you and I may have a different view here. I want Kamala Harris to be more pro-Israel. I want her to speak more pro-Israel, but that's going to piss off people on her left.
Well, there has to be a message of peace that will not piss off both sides. I'm not talking about it's going to 100%, but she needs to, and I'm with you on this, she needs to come out and she needs to express, not that she hasn't already. She's quoted, for example, in a Reuters article that I read yesterday. And the Reuters article specifically says, and this is her words, her commitment to Israel is, and the quote, ironclad. And I think that's, look, you see, you're shaking your head. You're very much similar to a lot of like these Upper East Side Jewish women who I know here. They're like, oh my God, I have to, I'm pro-Israel and therefore I can't vote for Kamala Harris. And I looked at them and I say, are you out of your fucking minds? You can't vote for Kamala Harris because you think that she's anti-Israel? That's not accurate. When somebody comes out and makes a statement that says, my commitment to Israel is ironclad, that should sort of be the beginning of taking back your statement that she's anti-Israel. Maybe she doesn't say it enough. I don't know the answer. And so, but if you vote for Donald Trump for that reason and that reason alone, you are an idiot. Because rest assured, Donald Trump, as we have all seen, is for sale. His pardons were for sale. His
True.
office was for sale. Israel will be for sale. It was Donald Trump who showed documents and who gave away information that ended up in the hands of Iran that were given to him by intelligence that was in conjunction with Israel's intelligence agency, by the IDF. If you think that Israel is going to be safe under a Trump administration, you are mistaken and you are a fool.
Michael, I agree with everything you just said. All I'm trying to do is just say practically on politically, Joe Biden had a problem. Kamala Harris has the same problem. Her coalition, like Biden's, is split on Israel. So they have to kind of do a dance. Now, I would just prefer, as a former politician, you just say what you believe, be authentic. But before Kamala Harris became the nominee, I heard from tons of moderate Jews who said to me, Joe, I can't stand Trump. Biden's getting bad on Israel. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm hearing a lot of that same. My response to them, Michael, is Donald Trump is an existential threat to our democracy. Nothing's more important than that. But all I'm saying, Michael, is it will impact her votes. She needs to be stronger on Israel. I think that will help her politically with these swing voters.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But I also want to acknowledge what you just said, that before we start talking about Russia and Ukraine, before we start talking about Israel and Palestine, or Israel versus Hamas, I think we have to start navigating our own economic challenges here at home. We have to worry about domestic, because we're not worth shit in the world if we don't get a hold of our own problems. I mean, we have issues here that need to be addressed. Inflation, income inequality, our national debt. I mean, I think that there are policies that need to be prioritized by the next administration, regardless of whoever it might be, that helps to foster growth and stability.
Hey, Michael, here's the cool thing. Joe Biden was incapable of saying what you just said. Do you know we've increased manufacturing jobs under Biden faster than any other administration?
Yep.
I know you know that. I know you know this. We are producing our own energy. We are more energy independent right here in America
than ever in history. In fact, not only are we producing enough for our own domestic consumption, but we're actually exporting for the first time now under the Biden administration.
Completely. There's a great record to boast about. And by the way, we've recovered from COVID far better than any other industrialized nation economically. Joe Biden was incapable of campaigning and saying these things. Kamala Harris will make this case.
And do you not think that making this case is enough to offset these swing voters that are saying to themselves, yeah, but I don't like his stance on Israel? You can't be so myopic. I mean, nobody should be living, off of a one issue decision, because there's too much. Here, let me go to another one. So despite the fact that I don't care what the recent decision or determination by law enforcement that Donald Trump actually was grazed by a bullet, I say bullshit. It was fragment of either the monitor or the podium or something like that that ricocheted off and hit him in the side of the ear. There's no way in the world that it was from ammunition, because that would have required at least one stitch. And Donald didn't even take one single stitch, right? You would think after, and this is not to diminish for a second, not for 1 second, that there was an assassination attempt on his life, and that is horrible. But then it brings up the whole issue of gun control legislation. I have not heard either side. And I would think that this would be something that Kamala Harris would throw out there. In light of the most recent scenario, the front runner, the GOP nominee for the president of the United States of America, my opponent, right? My opponent, my political opponent, had an assassination attempt on his life by a 20-year-old mental case who happened to be a Republican. See, this is what I would get out and I would say. Because gun control legislation is non-existent. It's just non-existent. And this debate over gun control, the debate over legislation for who can buy it and when you could buy it and background checks and so on. Nobody's talking about the fact that this right now would be a great talking point to balance out those from the NRA who are firm believers in Second Amendment rights versus public safety. Nobody.
Michael, Trump and his team, and they're already doing it, are going to paint her as a lefty, the most liberal senator who sat in that body. And if she gets, and it's going to work with a lot of people. And her job again is to grab the voters in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the swing voters in these states. And if she's out there talking huge, and you and I disagree on guns, I'm a big gun rights guy, but if she's out there pushing gun control huge in a big, big way, that's going to be a turnoff to swing voters. If she wants to energize her base, Michael, talk about that shit. But I think she can use the issue of abortion, and she will, in a big way to energize her base. If I were advising her, I wouldn't get into the gun issue. I think that hurts her politically.
So you do know, I think you know, and I think you remember, I used to have a full carry concealed permit in the city of New York, one of only maybe 1,000 of those licenses.
I remember,
1,000. I believe in gun ownership. I also believe in what's called responsible gun ownership. I don't believe that an 18-year-old should be permitted to walk into a store without any background checks, without any documentation or anything, and be able to purchase a gun. And I'm going to tell you my reason why.
Well, I agree.
For the same reason that he can't walk into a 7-Eleven and buy a fucking beer, which I think our rules, our laws are all over the place. He can be drafted to go to war, but he can't buy a beer from a 7-Eleven. He can't have a drink of alcohol because that requires 21. But gun control legislation, I just believe that I check my cholesterol levels twice a year, and thankfully, they're within normal range. I mean, for me, supporting healthy cholesterol levels is important. It's important for your health, for your metabolism, and for your blood sugar levels. I mean, do you exercise and watch what you eat, but then you get frustrated when you don't see the results that you want? Well, your secret weapon for heart health is Super Berrine for 2-in-1 advanced cholesterol support. Super Berrine is an amazing supplement formulated with an ingredient that not only helps support your metabolism, it helps support healthy cholesterol levels. Nearly 3 times more effective than your diet and exercise alone. I mean, you heard that right. 3 times more effective. And I take my Super Berrine every day, and I'm finally feeling great. So why wouldn't everyone want to do more to support their cholesterol than diet and exercising alone? And knowing that Super Berrine is a plant-based supplement from nature, it gives me confidence. Gives me confidence that there's no side effects. Now, I've known too many people over the years with cholesterol issues, and I want no part of it as I grow older. So I take my daily Super Berrine advanced cholesterol support, and so should you. I take it every morning with my oatmeal and my green tea. I just simply take my 1 capsule and I'm done. No more powders, no more supplement Vitapacks. Super berrying is all I need. And like me, you'll see results. Super convenient, just one easy to swallow capsule a day. It helps you do more to support healthy cholesterol levels, metabolic health, and blood sugar levels, something that's important. Super Berry's unique berberine, it's the only berberine shown to support healthy cholesterol levels, nearly 3 times more effective than diet and exercising alone. Why wouldn't you do this? Clinically researched ingredients with better absorption and better results. I mean, it features a clinically studied berberine shown to have nearly, listen to this, 10 times higher absorption than standard berberine. I mean, Italian olive fruit extract provides strong antioxidant properties that support cardiovascular health. I mean, it's used by doctors and from the makers of Super Beets. So remember this, it's the #1 doctor, the #1 pharmacist and cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support. So give your cholesterol health advanced support with a free month supply of Super Berry, plus 15% off. So go right now to superberry.com and enter promo code Cohen. That's Superberry, that's BERINE.com/Cohen. So again, go to superberry.com and enter promo code Cohen. That's super, BERINE.com/Cohen. I went through an extensive federal background check before I was able to get that license. And I think it's the responsible thing to do, especially in light of what just happened to my former boss, to the Republican nominee for the presidency.
If she, Michael,
can I say one last thing?
Yeah.
Ready for this one?
No.
What's the first thing that all kings, all monarchs, all dictators, all Führers do? They take away your guns. Why? Because the last thing they want are mini militias being created, right, that will uprise against you and your militia. They do not want a civilian population that may turn around and say, you know what? We got fucking bamboozled by this guy, but we shall have it no more. And we shall gather all of us together with our AR-15s and our long rifles and our handguns, and we will attack. That's the last thing that a king wants. So rest assured, if Donald wins and he becomes the king that he believes that he to be, he will remove everyone's guns. Rest assured, and the penalty for not turning them over will be severe.
Historically, you're right, which is why I've always said the Second Amendment protects every other amendment. That right, because that's the last one that can protect your right to speak, worship, everything. And you're right, dictators grab the guns. And you and I know Trump doesn't believe in anything. Is he pro-gun or anti-gun? Trump's nothing. Is he pro-Israel or anti-Israel? Trump doesn't believe in anything on any issue. Trump is pro-Trump. So that is something. I just think if you're Kamala Harris talking about guns, talk about basic common sense stuff. But if she wants to win, Michael, focus on the economy, take immigration on. Here's one, like, Trump and the Republicans are tough on the border. Biden and Harris are weak on the border. There's been some truth there. But so say you're going to be tough on the border, but then double down and say, unlike Trump and MAGA, we welcome legal immigrants. We want a lot more legal immigrants. We're the land of immigrants. Let's make the process of becoming a legal immigrant easier, because Trump and MAGA, Michael, they don't even want legal immigrants here.
Right.
And most Americans do want to embrace legal immigration.
Right. So I'll tell you something which I would add to your recommendation to Kamala Harris. What I would do is I would go to that Republican senator, Langford, who already had one of the most comprehensive immigration plans that Joe Biden was willing to sign. And what I would do is I would start engaging in conversation with him right now and saying, on day one, I'm going to push for the Langford bill to be passed by Congress so that I could immediately sign it into law.
Michael,
Bipartisan.
You're a political genius. Somebody needs to hire you. That's what Kamala Harris said last night. She said, I'm going to make sure that bill is put on my desk on day one, and I'm going to sign it. That's a great idea.
Well, that's funny because I didn't see it. And I was wondering.
I know, but that means your instincts are right, man.
Wow, interesting. Now, I want to go back to something that you brought up, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. This is, I think, a bigger issue than even the pro-Israel dilemma that currently exists there for the Democratic Party. I think the overturning of Roe versus Wade it's absolutely the reason for the loss of Trump at the ballot box, including a massive Democratic down ballot vote. I really do believe it. This
and in the 22 midterms.
Yeah, I mean, this overturning of abortion rights has reignited not just a national debate, but discourse. I'm curious how you think that the way that they keep talking, meaning Trump and Vance, about mifepristone, IVF, now Iowa just became the 4th state to ban abortions after 6 weeks, a time that many women don't even know that they're pregnant. It's now the 14th state and growing. How do you think this is going to influence voter behavior come November?
Here's what we know politically, Michael. The immigration issue has always helped Republicans. The abortion issue helps Democrats.
Let's talk about independents, though, because Republicans will vote Republican, except for the 30% that hate Trump. Democrats are voting for Democrat. Yeah. Let's talk about specifically independents and swing voters.
And talking about independents and swing voters, they're generally more with Republicans on immigration, and they are much more with Democrats on the issue of abortion. And so politically, Michael, this is the great issue for Democrats. And politically for Kamala Harris as a woman, because she kind of embodies this issue. She's talked about this issue a lot. Last night in Atlanta, she got emotional talking about it. Having her be the face talking about this politically is really, really, really going to help Democrats. And Michael, I love the way they're talking about it, even though you and I may disagree on the issue of abortion. If I were a Democrat talking about it, I'd do what they're doing. It's an issue of freedom. It's about freedom. There's talk that J.D. Vance, is talking about regulating women's menstrual cycles. I mean, this is just bizarro shit. Yeah, freedom.
Well, he is bizarre. But what makes you think that we're different on the ideology of abortion?
Well, I've always been pro-life. I don't use that term anymore because we're all pro-life. Even pro-choice people are pro-life. I oppose a lot of these extreme laws that have been enacted in a number of states. But beyond a certain point, whatever that point is, I wish we could all decide that point, 12 weeks, 15 weeks. Then in my mind, society has a right to protect that life beyond that point. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, it goes again to the exceptions, the life of the mother.
Life, health, all
exactly,
that. Yeah.
The whole bit. But, one of the other things that I have to give a lot of credit to Kamala's team, even though they are far, far from where they need to be, it's their usage of social media. Because I believe that these social media platforms, these TikToks, these Instagrams, I hate to say it, even X, even though it's become just like it's become a fucking cesspool of bots and so on. It's legitimately revolutionized political communication. I mean, I've seen more ads over the last 2 days by Kamala Harris's team, and they're good ads. I'll tell you, MeidasTouch Network, who I'm affiliated with, they just put out some of the best ads that I've seen in a long time. And the same holds true for like Lincoln Project or George Conway, was doing one. They are brilliant. Why? Yeah. Because what it does is it goes to an individual, a singular topic, and it spends a good 3-4 minutes onto it. The reason why social media's impact has become so big, imagine you go ahead and you spend $150,000 on an ad. And it's going to be on one of your, whether it's your mainstream media networks or it's going to be on cable news. And it's a 60-second or a 30-second commercial. The issue is, one, how many people are actually really watching it? And how many people are watching it at that exact second? So you could have somebody who watches a television show, a news show, and they start at 4:10 in the afternoon, right? And they watch it because they were in the bathroom, because they just walked in from the supermarket or whatever else was going on in their lives. But the commercial came out at 4:07 to 4:08.
Yeah.
You have no idea what your visual impact is on that commercial, on that idea, on that impact. But with social media, you actually can. You tell people to like the thing. So you know how many people believe in your message and how many don't. And based on that, you're able to change your campaign, you change your strategy, and it helps you significantly with voter engagement, as well as destroying the terrible spread of misinformation that's going on right now.
Michael, social media is the brave new world in advertising. You can do a 60-second ad and you can say, I want every Gen Zer in the state of Michigan to see this ad on their social media feeds. You can target who sees your stuff down to like as narrow as you can get. It's an amazing world.
Yeah. Well, I started literally 29 days ago. I started my own YouTube channel called The Michael Cohen Show. Something I think, Joe, that you should do as well. And I'll tell you, talk about meteoric rise. In 29 days, I now have over 110,000 subscribers. It's The Michael Cohen Show, where I do exactly what I'm saying. It's almost like I take the news of the day. Like I just did one that just popped out that deals with Fred Trump III's, his book that just came out, where he talks about how Donald, not only fucked him and his sister out of money, but the fact that he so disgustingly said about Fred's son, his grandnephew, who is disabled, who's handicapped, that maybe you should just let him die and you should move down to Florida. And then the asinine response by Eric Trump about, trying to disgrace his uncle because getting Donald to do what he's supposed to do, which was fund the health care for this young man, has not been occurring. And it's the whole thing is just gross. So I put these things out and I've got literally over 3.25 million views so far with over 200,000 hours of view time. This is important. And I can't tell you, I'm walking down the streets in New York, or I was in the Hamptons, or when I was in DC, and people say, oh my God, I was just watching you on your Instagram on the Michael Cohen Show. And I'm like, oh, what'd you think? I've had people turn around and tell me, I love watching you on TikTok, or I follow you on your podcast, Mea Culpa, or Political Beatdown. I mean, I'm using social media as much as possible and as best as possible in order to keep spreading the word, because again, I just don't think the Harris campaign is doing enough. They're doing a lot, but they're just not doing enough. And they really should be reaching out to people like me, Lincoln Project,
Yeah.
all of these various MeidasTouch, they should be reaching out to everybody and have a coordinated effort to get this done.
Michael, I go on cable news a lot. I know you still do. It's a whole different world now. You and I could just stop doing cable news altogether and just do your own thing on social media. You would reach more people every single day.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And
Yeah.
then, one of the other things that I don't think is being discussed enough, and I think that Kamala should really come out strong, is, the issue that's going on right now, the U.S. foreign policy with both China and Russia, because, with increasing tensions, China and Russia seem to have now created some sort of an unholy alliance. And of course, it's China taking advantage of Russia. But at some point in time, I believe that China is going to back Russia, especially as Russia continues to move forward through Ukraine on its way to Poland. And that just creates all sorts of additional problems for our foreign policy. I just, again, don't think that it's being talked about, the promotion of global stability.
And I think Kamala Harris is. What's always hard, Michael, is this is 100-some-day campaign, so this is really accelerated. But she'll get out there. She's got a great opportunity to position herself as way stronger than Trump, because Trump's weak. He's a pussy abroad. He's Putin's puppet. China just tools him around. Kamala Harris, and by the way, if Trump wins, forget about Ukraine. Kamala Harris can position herself as a much stronger force internationally than Donald Trump by far.
Yeah, on any given day. As we're sort of coming to the end, I want to just touch on two additional points. The first one is the engagement of the younger voters. I am a firm believer that Kamala has this in the bag. I believe that Gen Zers, for the most part, and by a large majority, are going to vote for Kamala Harris. I think that the thing, especially Roe versus Wade, climate control, gun control reform, and a multitude of other, issues. I think the extensive debt. I do believe that the younger voter will be voting for Kamala Harris, if not for only to see the first woman president in the United States, let alone the first black woman, in U.S. history to be president. I think that they like these sort of changes, and I think that's going to be extremely important in the ultimate decision.
Michael, the key is to get them to vote. Most will vote for her. The key is to get them out. They were not at all jazzed about Biden. I speak a lot on college campuses, and young people are turned off by our politics. Kamala Harris can help change that a little bit, get them more jazzed to come out and vote. They need to focus on them.
So let me ask you
in the battleground states.
Right. Well, I think everywhere. I mean,
everywhere.
I think everybody's voice should be equal. And I hate the fact that all they want to do now is concentrate on 6 or 7 states. But look, as the hour comes to an end, and I told you it goes unfortunately way too quick. I kind of want to get your thoughts on who do you think Kamala will ultimately choose as her vice presidential running mate? And what's the reason why you believe that?
I'll just predict. I think she surprises people and picks Mark Kelly from Arizona. I could make a case for any of them. They're all good. Kamala Harris is going to be painted as a lefty. It's important for her to pick a VP who's more thought of as a moderate. I got to tell you, Mike, so my surprise pick would be it is Mark Kelly. But I got to tell you, man, if I had my druthers, he'd pick Gretchen. She would pick Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan and double down, give me an all-female and all-woman ticket. I think that would be out of the park.
Yeah, I think it's too risky.
You don't like it, do you?
No. I've thought about that too. And to me, I would still be voting Kamala in 2024. And I would love to see both the president and a vice president as a as a ticket. Why not? I mean, what was Mike Pence other than a cardboard cutout? I agree with you. I mean, I think Shapiro would be a great choice. I just don't think, because being Jewish, I think it causes a lot of problems. I really do. As much as he's loved and respected, and I think he's got such a great disposition about him, I just don't think it's...
Make a prediction. Who do you think it will be?
I'm going with Mark Kelly also.
Oh, cool.
I think it's the right move. Either Kelly or Bashir.
Got it.
One of the two makes the most sense. What I like about Kelly, which you agree on, is that he's a moderate. And
he's good on the border too.
And he is, and he's also as a middle-aged plus man, he brings sort of a additional balance of both youth and wisdom.
He's an astronaut, that's right. So cool.
Right. I agree. He's an American hero. And so, So look.
Cool, Michael.
I agree.
You're the best.
Thank you, my brother. I hope to see you at the upcoming convention in August. That would be great. Thank you for joining me as always on Mea Culpa. And I would
love me, Michael Cohen. Love me some Michael Cohen.
Well, wait till I run. I'm going to need your help as I run. I'm going to run right after the November election. I'm announcing I'm going to be running against Jerry Nadler. It's about time he stepped down too. Exactly.
Good.
So thank you, my brother, and I will see you very soon.
Thanks, Michael.
Go Joe.